Welcome back again. You're watching World Talks, and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has mocked Russia's military missions, saying the Kremlin has, over the course of more than 4 years, delayed 15 deadlines to capture the Donbas region. This came after Vladimir Putin rejected a Ukrainian proposal to scale back fighting by halting long-range strikes, and is now suffering consequences of this very decision. Myroslava Gongadze, Nonresident Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, joins me now for a discussion on the latest from Ukraine. Ms. Gongadze, it's been a moment since we spoke here last. I'm very happy to see you back.
Pleasure to be here.
So let's start with the words by Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who said today our long-range sanctions against Russia for this war once again reached the Dubna Space Communications Center. This Dubna strike, do you consider it to be an important development when it comes to Ukrainian response and those long-range strikes that really seem to be shifting the balance of power on the battlefield?
What I have to say from standing here in Washington D.C., I can tell you in the last months what shifted is its ability of Ukrainian military forces to actually strike Russia strike deep in Russia, changed the mood not only in Washington on the Capitol Hill but as well as in other capitals. Now people are seeing that Ukraine is capable defending itself, and there is a lot of memes on the internet about the cards that Ukraine have actually or developed and now playing. So what actually contributed to this success? The fact that United States actually pushed Ukraine to kind of rely on itself, as well as pushed Russia to, pushed European Union to actually step in and pay for some of the ammunition and help Ukraine to sustain this defense process. That actually gave Ukraine ability and freedom in some way to use whatever they have to defend itself. And that's what would happen, because last year, as you remember, a year before, United States were standing against a deep strike in Russia. There's a lot of fear of retaliation, and now Ukraine is doing what they were saying are ready to do for a long period of time, and now even have their own capabilities to do that. So basically, this is, as President Zelenskyy said, it's Ukrainian the sanctions against Russia, and almost 40% of Russian capability of develop their or use their refineries are damaged. And now, as you said, Putin actually admit that he is the shortage or economic pressure on even on Russian citizens. Mm-hmm. However, as one expert today said, that Putin is probably ready to actually see the Russia burn, that then admit that he is losing this war.
Which takes me to my next question, because we've heard signals that Russia actually acknowledges that these strikes are taking place, but they seem to be minimizing the impact that those long-range Ukrainian strikes have on the infrastructure and on the civil society. And we hear from the Kremlin that there are no fuel shortages. Meanwhile, Russians themselves say that they've never seen such a situation take place due to those very shortages. Do you think that there is going to be pressure on Kremlin domestically to have even more response in terms of the attacks towards Ukraine? Or perhaps we're going to see some sort of a shift happen?
I mean, Russian population and Russia are very united in support of Putin. If any shift can happen in Russia, it will happen in the leadership or in Russian elite. So basically, all the strikes definitely have an effect. And as we know, the Russian economy is based on their energy resources and the ability to actually produce and produce energy and produce in the defense sector. So and it's all related. I mean, connected. So in this situation, we can maybe see or hopefully see some shifts in a Russian elite that they will be pushing Putin to actually start maybe negotiating. We heard from some officials in UN that China actually stepping up their kind of position, asking to stop fighting. So maybe there are not only in Russia but some other countries who are in a way supporting this war will change the calculation for Vladimir Putin.
I need to look back at some of the latest news items that we've covered on World News Tonight earlier on. Considering the latest news, we've heard from Poland's Defense Minister Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, who had this to say: just like President Zelenskyy said yesterday during Ukraine's national holiday that no one will tell the Ukrainians what to think or do, well then, no one will tell us how to vote on the future of EU membership of candidate countries. This is part of the continuation of the spat that continues. Is this a step back for Ukraine's accession process? What's your opinion on this latest quote from Poland's defense minister?
It's very unfortunate that history, that not resolved issues of the Ukraine-Polish history actually affecting the future of both countries and future of the continent. I do hope that both countries and both leadership of both countries will find the solution before we will have the chance to actually exercise this EU in more closer EU engagement. They would be able to find common ground. In the end of the day, both countries are very dependent on each other. Ukraine is depending on help and the delivery of supplies from Poland, and Poland is actually depend on Ukraine to stop in Russia at the border. So basically, there has to be some kind of truce commission or some kind of commission that countries can actually find a solution for this issue. But it's definitely at this moment it's benefiting only Russia when Ukraine and Poland is fighting.
And now a final point of our conversation, because the NATO summit in Ankara is coming up very soon, and this is something that all these events that were taking place on the international stage were leading up to. What are your expectations regarding this summit? I mean, we know that some of the most important points on the agenda are also going to focus around Ukraine, but in your professional opinion, what are we to look forward to?
I believe this is the critical moment in the NATO history. We have an issue that dividing NATO from inside, the U.S. position on NATO, the needs of EU to step up their ability to defend itself, and at the same time, from the other side, we have war in Ukraine. So those issues will be affecting the NATO summit, and I do hope that NATO would realize that the new reality in the world, and it's not a post World War II world anymore. The NATO has to be prepared for integration with Ukrainian ability to defend itself, to innovate. NATO have to learn the lessons from Ukraine and basically build their own system, relying on itself, specifically on Europe, not just they have to make sure that they are in a critical moment can make a be fast and decisive in their innovation and defense. And in this situation, the introduction of Ukraine into the planning processes, into the procurement processes, into industrial development processes is the key issue for NATO. So Ukraine is hoping for that. that. And actually, here on the Capitol Hill, U.S. is hoping for it. U.S. is going that direction. I can tell you that today and yesterday there are a couple of legislations were introduced on the Capitol Hill that will allow Ukraine and American co-production of drones, a special commission for industrial development, and this is so U.S. is stepping up. Now it's time for European NATO allies to step up their game.
Quickly before we go, do you think that the summit, which is set to take place in Ankara, is going to provide an opportunity for NATO members to find renewed unity?
Absolutely. When the U.S. is saying that Europe have to stand on their own, it doesn't mean that the U.S. is going away. United States has a critical position and critical ability to support NATO, and this is the question: how this reliance on yourself as well as engaging other partners will work out. But this Ankara summit is the key moment to find that unity.
Thank you very much. Myroslava Gongadze, Nonresident Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, was my guest. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And so this would be all for now here on World Talks. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, but don't go anywhere because we have more of this, where this came from. So I'll see you very soon and have a very good day.